All right, well, election interference, a big problem we face as elections are getting closer. But one group fighting to make sure that we don't have as many problems this time around, American Promise, is proposing a constitutional amendment that will give states the power to control their election finance laws so that Democrat-backed billionaires can't control elections in red districts. Joining me now to talk a little bit about this is a former New Hampshire state senator and board member of American Promise and the Federal Fiscal Sustainability Foundation, Jim Rubens. Jim, nice to see you.
It is great. Thank you for having me here. So we had at American Promise, we had a booth at CPAC last week, and our banner said, protect election integrity, stop Zuckerbucks. What was remarkable is that almost every single person knew what the word Zuckerbucks meant. Here's what happened in the 2020 elections. Mark Zuckerberg, an individual billionaire from California, spent $419 million on basically an extremely sophisticated GOTV get out the vote turnout operation, directed 5 to 10 to 1 toward Democratic left-leaning districts. It worked. They altered election outcomes by boosting turnout in those districts. And the question we raise here at American Promise, do we want this to happen? We don't, because it's basically it's a form of campaign money corruption. So at American Promise, we're proposing an amendment to the U.S. Constitution to restore the power of states and Congress to set limits on this money. It comes from typically California, New York billionaires, D.C. party bosses. It's coming in through super PACs. It's coming in through C3s, C4s. There's dark foreign money. There's Chinese communist money. We know there's Russian money in our elections. No way to stop it right now, because as a result of about 20 years of extraordinary Supreme Court judicial activism, 100 years of laws fashioned over time by Congress and by the states to limit campaign money corruption has all been struck down. So the only limits remaining on campaign money
So what happened? Jim, I'm confused, because I've heard the Democrats flap their lips and bump their gums over and over again about how we need to get dark money out of elections, and yet here we are with the Democrats pumping in more dark money than in the history of dark money ever. Right. What am I missing?
Well, the Democrats have gotten a lot better at this game than the Republicans. They're much better at marshaling billionaire. And again, it's California, New York, D.C. party bosses. And what they're doing is they're picking candidates. They're killing federalism. They're determined. They're nationalizing elections and all swing elections. And it's got down to state house control elections. So a very tiny number of people in both parties are picking issues, they're picking candidates, and it's destroying the ability, particularly of red states, to choose their candidates, their issues, their focal priorities. So again, the only way to stop this now is to amend the U.S. Constitution, and that's what American Promise is working on. We're organized in 50 states where we seek to get Congress to draft and to pass the For Our Freedom Amendment. Very simple. It would restore the ability of states and Congress, should they see fit, and to the extent they see fit, it compels nothing, to set limits on this money so we can put power back in the hands of voters and stop this incredible corruption by concentrated money.
Jim, I appreciate your efforts. I got bad news. Yeah. You have almost zero chance of any of that ever happening.
Well, let me tell you about
zero, Jim. I mean, getting an amendment to the United States Constitution, getting an amendment in here, the chance of pulling that off. I understand that. When was the last one passed?
Well, then the last one, I think, was 1972, is the 27th, which limits the ability of members of Congress to set their own pay. 27 amendments so far. They tend to come up when extraordinary extent of public frustration, division, people turn to the power of amending to fix structural problems. We're at such a point. Supermajorities of the American public and American Promise, we've polled this. Even in super red state Wyoming, 75% of voters want this. Supermajorities.
I'm sure in red Wyoming they do, but in dark blue Oregon they don't want this. In dark blue Washington and Massachusetts, they don't want this.
Well, they do.
These are the blue states don't want this, Jim. That's why I say it's. I mean, I appreciate the fact that you think this can happen. Well, I think the chance of success is zero.
Well, two things. Number one, we've polled these states. Supermajorities of voters in every state we've polled favor this. 22 states through their legislative process have signed on asking Congress. 22 states have already signed on to the American Promise Pledge, asking Congress, draft this amendment, get it back to the states for ratification.
And of those 22 states, Jim, and look, I'm not discounting what you're saying here. Of those 22 states, which blue state is on the list?
Well, I'm afraid to say that most of the states are blue states that have endorsed this. Okay, so at American Promise, we're working on red states getting them on board. We're working really hard in Arizona. We're working in Wyoming. We're working in Wisconsin, Arizona, and Pennsylvania. We just passed.
All right, well,
yeah.
And if I'm wrong, I'll admit that I'm wrong. But getting a constitutional amendment is one of the most difficult things to do by design.
This is quite
by
true.
design. That's where the founders created it. Anyhow, let me do this. I'll give you the last word, and you tell people where they can find out more. I think what you're doing is right, because we don't want Zuckerbucks deciding the elections. We don't. We don't want mail-in ballots. We don't want a bunch of things. We want accountability. So tell the folks where they can find you.
We can win this, baby. 27 amendments, AmericanPromise.net. Sign up. Join us in every state.
AmericanPromise.net, and it's the red states, you're telling me, that are not coming on board so far.
In Congress, the public supports this thing. We're at an amending moment.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But you're telling me the blue states are pursuing this and the red states are not, which surprises me. It seems backwards to me, but so it is. Jim Rubens, thank you for being here. Look, AmericanPromise.net. If Gruber's wrong, he'll admit it. I will, but we'll find out, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.